So first, Dr. Wolf, can you tell us what is life expectancy? Because in this report, we saw that the average life expectancy has dropped from 79 years to 76 years in the period of 2019 to 2021. So does that mean that a baby born in 19 is going to live 3 years more than a baby born in 21? What does this index mean?
It's a great question because life expectancy is a term that's often misunderstood. And many people think it means what you just said, that it's a description of how long a baby born in a particular year is destined to live. And it can't be predicted because we have no idea what health conditions will be like over the course of that child's lifetime, or where they will live and what health threats they will face. So that's actually not what life expectancy means. Life expectancy for a particular year is simply a summary score of the death rates for that year. So when we say that life expectancy decreased between 2019 and 2020, and then decreased further in 2020 and 21, what we're really saying is that death rates were enormous during those years. And the fact that it was lower in 2021 than it was in 2020 means that in 2021, we experienced not only the massive number of deaths in 2020, but even more, causing life expectancy the score to be even lower.
Okay.
But it is not a prediction of how long a child born in that year will live.
I guess a decrease in life expectancy is never a good sign.
Mhm.
And you called this report disturbing. So what are some takeaways from this report, and what are the things that are especially disturbing to you?
What's very disturbing about the CDC report is that while these other countries were recovering in their life expectancy, US life expectancy kept falling by a large amount. And what we know, because other countries have done better, is that that wasn't necessary. Those deaths were avoidable. And that's what's especially tragic about this CDC report. Beyond that, it discloses very disturbing racial and ethnic disparities in those losses in the United States, where some population groups, particularly Native American populations, experience horrific losses in life expectancy during 2021.
So Dr. Wolf, you mentioned two aspects. One is US compared to other countries in the world, and the other is among different racial groups. So let's talk about the first aspect, right? So while other, especially rich countries, saw a rebound in 2021, the US is still lagging. What are the reasons for that?
We identified 5 domains that affect our health. These domains affect health in every country, but they provided a framework to help us think about why is it in the United States that we do so much worse. So the 5 buckets are health systems, like the healthcare system. We in the United States tend to think that our health is driven by healthcare, but it only accounts for about 10 to 20% of health outcomes. Nonetheless, it's an important piece. The second is health behaviors, smoking, diet, physical activity. These are very important to our health. But both healthcare and health behaviors are influenced by the third bucket, which is socioeconomic conditions. And by this, I'm referring to things like education, income, poverty, income inequality. Those we know are very important to health. The fourth bucket is our environment. Our ability to make choices is determined by what kind of options we have in our environment. The physical environment itself, like air and water pollution, climate change, affect our health. And the social environment matters. In the United States, that includes things like segregation, systemic racism, social isolation, which are also affecting our health. And then the fifth bucket, which is actually influencing the other 4, is public policies. So decisions that are made by the government at the national, state, and local level influence those 4 other domains and are all important to health.
In the US, Asian Americans held the highest life expectancy among all racial and ethnic groups. And it only fell slightly in the year of 2021. Why is it so?
Well, again, you have to divide it up between pre-existing issues that we knew about before the pandemic and then what occurred during the pandemic. So as you said, historically, Asian Americans have had higher life expectancy than any other racial and ethnic group in the United States. We always are careful when we say things like this because these are very broad categories. So within the category of Asian Americans, we have people of various origins, and depending on which countries they come from, the health trends may not be so good. And so for specific Asian countries, life expectancy may not be better than in other racial and ethnic groups in the United States. But as a large category, the Asian American population has done better. And a lot of the reason for that has to do with those social determinants of health that I mentioned earlier. For example, education, which is one of the most important determinants of health, tends to be much higher in the Asian population. And with that, because the United States is a knowledge economy, income levels tend to be higher in the Asian population. So we see a lot of factors that include not only socioeconomic conditions, but lifestyle, dietary habits, and other factors that are protective and improve the health of the Asian population.
Well, my final question, is there anything that's positive to draw from this report?
Well, yes, I think there is some good news in the report. I mentioned it earlier, which is that the high-risk population, the Hispanic and Black population, actually did better in the second year of the pandemic. That's very encouraging. It means that if we take advantage of life-saving interventions like vaccination and behaviors that help reduce transmission of this virus, we can make a big difference in saving lives. And that is a glimmer of hope because it tells us that many of these other groups that are still suffering can have a better outcome if they take advantage of these protective measures. And I do take hope in looking at what's happened in other countries because that's a signal that we can do better and that it's possible to see life expectancy recover from as the pandemic subsides.